This is In the Zone.
Corn, cardboard, ass splinters, more corn, blossom.
Whoa! Whoa!
Yeah!
Things Fred Roggin would say.
Hurry.
Things Stan Kroenke would say.
Yes! Yeah!
On the In the Zone Network. This is In the Zone.
They all want to know what's causing all this.
In St. Louis, the talk of the NFL, or talk of professional football, is alive and well again. Now you got Benjamin Albright and Albert Breer on the air in St. Louis radio talking about the possibility of football coming to St. Louis. But why is this happening? You know why? Because Derek King sparked the conversation.
On the In the Zone Network.
How you doing? Good morning. Once again, that mute button does not like to come off. That's what I hate about digital stuff. Just had this conversation with the great Ron Nuttall the other day about digital interfaces, and they suck. They're terrible. But welcome to the Derek King Sports Show. Obviously, this is a new format. This is what we're working on now. Going forward, we're going to start doing it on Wednesdays. We're going to have a one show a week. And, obviously, it's better that way, so that way I can condense more information for you guys, and you guys can get a better look on what's going on in the world of sports. Obviously, we like to talk about NFL quite a bit over here. That's what we're going to talk about quite a bit today, obviously, with the NFL playoffs going on. Let's get right down to it. One of the big breaking news stories this morning is that Chan Gailey, the offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, has stepped down or has resigned. So that's an interesting series of events. We'll see what happens with that and where the Dolphins end up going there. But we've also got some head coaching vacancies that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the upcoming draft and how everything's going to line out. We're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs. We just got a lot to talk about. So let's start off first with the draft coming up in April. So as it sits right now in the draft, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking the number 1 pick, followed by the Jets at 2, the Dolphins at 3, Falcons at 4, Bengals at 5, Eagles at 6, Lions at 7, Panthers at 8, Broncos at 9, and the Cowboys at 10. So we're just going to do the top 10, and that's really what we're going to kind of focus on for today's show and really point out. I don't think that there's any person that's in their right mind that says that Trevor Lawrence is not going to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars outside of an RG3 type trade where they're going to give you 3 number 1s or 4 number 1s or whatever. That's the only way that this is going to end up changing. I see Trevor Lawrence easily going at number 1 to the Jacksonville Jaguars unless there's a massive trade. The Jets are picking at number 2. Now, this is what could be interesting. You still have Sam Darnold there, but obviously that, kind of dynamic is somewhat fractured there in New York with Darnold and the Jets. Now, that does not mean that they're going to go out and they're going to pick Justin Fields at number 2, which is a lot of people what they think, that Justin Fields could go, number 1 or number 2. Justin Fields is a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, and he will go in the top, I think the top 10 at least, if not the top 5. But the New York Jets have an opportunity here. They could be trading out of that number 2 spot. They could be trading out and trading to another team that wants to move up. And we'll get to that next team that wants to move up. But the New York Jets at number 2, they could potentially pick up Justin Fields. I think they have bigger needs. They clearly have needs on defense. They clearly have needs on offense. They have needs all the way around. I think that they have a good quarterback in Sam Darnold. We'll just see how that goes. But at number 3 with the Miami Dolphins, this is the one that I find interesting. There's a couple of receivers out there. They really need a really good second receiver, if not a mainline receiver. So you could go pick up Jamar Chase. He could be there potentially. Devonta Smith. I think that he's probably the better of the 2 when it comes to a slot guy. But now if you're talking about a wideout that's a little bit bigger, Jamar Chase. He's probably your pick there at number 3 for the Dolphins. Atlanta Falcons, they just need all the way around. So it's really hard to say what angle they go. They could go with a lineman. They could go with a inside linebacker, an outside linebacker. I see them either picking up Micah Parsons or Kwity Paye. There's a few different people that they could potentially be picking up there at that spot. It's because they need a lot. It's not just offense; it's defense too as well. Cincinnati Bengals at 5. They same deal. They need a lot. They need a lot of protection for Joe Burrow, obviously, because now he's without a knee really at this point. Obviously, he's going through his rehab, and best of luck to him. And rehabbing from that horrible injury, but he needs some protection on the offensive line. You got a couple of options there at offensive line. You could go Penei Sewell. I think he's probably the best offensive lineman in this draft, easily. I think that he's probably the pick. You need to get him some protection there. Now, here's the one that I'm interested about, and this is what I was telling you about earlier with the Jets at number 2, the Philadelphia Eagles at number 6. That situation over there in Philadelphia has become absolutely toxic with Doug Peterson, and his tanking job that he did just here the other day is absolutely atrocious. And how he managed to not get his butt kicked by most of his players is absolutely beyond my comprehension. So you've got a toxic situation with your quarterback, your top flight quarterback that you've paid millions of dollars to. And he's a young guy. He's still a talented guy, but you could be moving on. Jalen Hurts is still a really good second option. Do you really need to be picking a quarterback at number 2? I don't really necessarily think so. I think that there's a very realistic possibility that the Philadelphia Eagles might be trading out of that number 6 spot to go up to number 2 to pick Justin Fields. Because the Eagles desperately need a quarterback now at this point. At least they seem to act like they do. And they might be in a total blow-up mode and move on. You could see the Detroit Lions at number 7 move up because the situation with Matthew Stafford there is a very good possibility they could be moving on from him. The Carolina Panthers need a quarterback. I don't see them trading because I think that Zach Wilson will be available. Let's see, who else could potentially be available? Trey Lance could be available at that point in time. But you're talking further down the line because that's obviously outside of the Trevor Lawrences and the Justin Fields and those type of players. So, I don't see the Carolina Panthers moving out of that position at number 8. Like I said, they could be picking up Zach Wilson. They could be picking up Trey Lance. They need a quarterback there. I understand Teddy Bridgewater is okay, but I don't think he's the 100% future solution for them going forward. They need to get another quarterback in there for the future. The Denver Broncos, I almost feel the same kind of way, that I'm glad that John Elway has stepped away from that situation and has kind of, ceded his control over the GM position and said, hey, I'm going to step back and I'm going to allow other people to kind of run this thing. So they need defensive help. They need offensive help. They need all sorts of help. And the Dallas Cowboys at 10, they need more defensive help. Obviously, we're hoping that Dak Prescott comes back next year. Hope for him. But the Cowboys need a lot of work too. That NFC East is pretty bad. And it's for anybody's for the taking really now at this point in time. So that's kind of my take on the draft, mock draft, if you will, draft in general. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hop over to the comments. We're going to look at those. And Kevin, good morning, good sir. Good to see you on here again. Justin Fields will just be another Ohio State QB that won't pan out in the NFL. I don't dispute that. It's a very realistic possibility that he could just be like every other Ohio State QB that's come along. That's a very realistic situation, a very realistic possibility. That's reality. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. We'll have to keep I think he's talented enough. I think he could do it, but the problem is that I'm concerned about his size. It comes down with him and his size. Trevor Lawrence is your prototypical, Peyton Manning style quarterback. Big guy, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", weighs 200+ pounds. He's a guy that's not going to get knocked around. He's your Big Ben type. He's your Peyton Manning type. He's your big, strapping young lad that can throw the ball an absolute country mile. He's got touch on his passes. He's a slam dunk number 1. If you talk anything about a blue chipper, he's a blue chipper if there ever was one. So that's the NFL 2021 draft, kind of our quick coverage. Let's talk a little about the NFL coaching vacancies, because let me tell you something. I'm going to give you my take on who I think is the best job. Let's say the top 3, right? The top 3 best jobs in the NFL. So let's start off at number 1, who I think is the top job in the NFL. Who I think is the top job in the NFL is hands down the Jacksonville Jaguars. There is no question that job is the number 1 job. You're in a state with no, state income tax. $81+ million of projected cap space. You've got 10 draft picks in this year's draft. That's absolutely atrocious. To have 10 draft picks and $81 million of cap space, what you could do with that is absolutely astounding. I think the second best job on the market right now is the New York Jets job. Big market, tons of cap space, $68 million. You have 9 draft picks. 9. That is an absolute ton of draft picks. So you could build a absolutely amazing team in the next 2 to 3 years if you do it right. I think the third best job in the NFL right now is probably going to be the Los Angeles Chargers job. And I say that with a little, but they have nearly $30 million in projected cap space. They have 8 draft picks this year. And you're in Los Angeles. You're in that state-of-the-art stadium that they're paying a $1 lease a year for. Come on. There's a very realistic possibility that the Los Angeles Chargers could easily, if they do this right, could easily overtake the Rams in Los Angeles as the favorite team. Because we all know everybody out in Los Angeles that, the natives out there, they just attach themselves to a team that wins because they know very little about football. Us here in the Midwest, who have lived and breathed and ate and slept football for a majority of our lives, understand the game better, understand the process better. We're not fair weather fans. We support our teams. That's just the way that it goes. So that's my top 3, and we can go down the line of all the other ones that are a pretty good one. I think at number 4, and I'll give you an extra one. I'll give you a number 4. I think it's the Detroit Lions. I think the Detroit Lions have a really good situation with $40 million in projected cap space and 5 picks. But don't sleep on the Atlanta Falcons with 10 picks. But the problem is they're negative $24 million under the cap. The cap's not going to increase this year. Not because of COVID. It's just not going to increase. So you're going to have to make some changes. The Houston Texans are in a bad spot. They're $16 million negative. They have 8 draft picks this year, but they do not have their first round or their second round. That's terrifying. That team has managed to get just absolutely gutted by their former head coach. Just absolutely gutted. So it's a bad situation, a really bad situation for that team over the next 2 to 3 years. It's going to be interesting to see how they end up fixing this problem down there in Houston. It's really going to be tough to see. So we're going to keep following that. We're going to keep looking at this coaching carousel. Obviously, we'll follow up on it next week. But the one big thing that I want to touch on, too, is obviously we have the NFL playoffs going on right now. So we're going to touch on that a little bit, and we're going to talk about the upcoming games that they have coming up. And let's do some picks. Okay? So let's start off with the wild card rounds. Colts, Bills, Buccaneers, Washington, Bears, Saints, Rams, Seahawks, Ravens, Titans, Browns, Steelers. Start off Colts, Bills. I think the Bills go over the Colts on this one. Easy. I think it'll be a close enough game, but I think that money dictates go for the Bills. Go for the Bills on that one. The Buccaneers, Washington team. Washington could pull off an upset. We'll get a little bit further down the line, and we'll talk about our upset pick once we get to the end. But I think the money says that the Buccaneers go over Washington on that one. The Bears at the Saints. I am going to pull for the Saints over the Bears on that one. The Rams at the Seahawks. I'm going to go Seahawks over the Rams. I think Russell Wilson pulls a rabbit out of his hat, and he does what Russell Wilson does and wins games in the playoffs. The Ravens, Titans. See the Ravens going over the Titans on that one, and that one could be a close one. Browns at Steelers. This is going to be my pick on this game. I'm going to call the Browns over the Steelers. I think the Steelers are pretenders. I think that there's something wrong in Steeler Nation right now. There is something wrong in Pittsburgh. But if I was going to pick my upset game of the week, Ravens Titans, and I don't even know if it's an upset because I think that game would be so close. But my upset pick is going to be Washington over the Buccaneers. I think that that's kind of your game that's going to be, that could go either way. And so that would be my upset pick. If the money dictates that the Buccaneers would go over the Washington football team, I would say that they could easily go the other way. So that would be my upset pick. If you want to have an upset pick, there you go. So that's the update on the playoff picture and what's been going on. Kevin has said that that Bill O'Brien wrecked that organization for the foreseeable future. I said, yeah, for at least the next 2 years, for sure. For sure. There's no question. Will says that Bill O'Brien has ruined that franchise for a couple years. Yeah, agreed. Absolutely. Gene says the same thing. Bill O'Brien set the Texans back a decade, he says. Well, that's a little rich because, we obviously in St. Louis, we had Rich Brooks and we had Steve Spagnuolo and we had Scott Linehan. We had some bad coaches. In St. Louis, it set us back for quite a few years, too. But it didn't set us back for a decade because obviously look at what they did. They got Jeff Fisher. He kind of turned things around and, at least leveled the ship. And now, obviously, they're at where they're at with the boy wonder. But, the entire situation with the Houston Texans is really bad. Kevin says the Browns are without Kevin Stefanski this week. And, yeah, he is in the COVID-19 protocol along with several other different players and I think another coach, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not like the OC or it's the offensive line coach, I can't remember exactly. But that's a bad situation over there in Cleveland. That could potentially end up hurting them. But it could also light a fire up underneath their butt like they haven't had before. And it's something that they need. Oh, hey, by the way, have you guys seen my St. Louis Stallions retro hoodie? If you haven't, you have for the first time. And now, I am not sponsored by this organization. I'm just telling you guys where I got this stuff from. If you watched, I believe it was the last episode that we did, I had a St. Louis Football Cardinals one on of the arch and the grid bird in the middle running with the football. I got both of these from oldschoolshirts.com. That's the place. They sent me a wonderful little sticker. And hey, Bert by Levin, a nice little old retro baseball card. That was pretty cool. They sent me these two things. If you want some of this old school stuff, if you want some neat things, go check them out. I like it pretty good. But hey, also a word of warning: if you wear a large, you guys out there, if you wear a large, make sure you get an extra large. If you wear an extra large, get a 2X. You'll thank me later. They're a little bit small, but you'll thank me later. That's not an ad. We're not paid by them. It's just, I know there's been some people that's been asking where I've been getting my stuff. That's where I've got my stuff. Oh, hey, too, by the way, my Superflow Motor Oils hat. That's pretty cool, ain't it? If you guys remember the movie Days of Thunder with Tom Cruise, I'm a big Days of Thunder fan. I love that movie. So once I saw this, I couldn't help but snatch it up. So that's just a couple interesting things. I know some people have brought some of that stuff up, and that's just a fun thing to talk about. But that's kind of where we're at with the NFL situation, with the coaching carousel, with the NFL draft coming up in April. That's kind of how it is. Gene was saying that he has no sound. Well, I'll tell you what, brother, there's sound on this end. If you don't have sound right now, that may just be the feed. It's hard to say. But I will obviously keep an eye on that. Hopefully that isn't an ongoing issue that we continue to have problems with. I don't obviously want that to be an issue. But we will come back next week once we get through these next series of games here in the next few days. and then we'll come back and we'll cover the NFL divisional rounds, and then we'll obviously look ahead to the conference championships. It's going to be a really interesting next couple of weeks as we see. Good, Kevin and Will, you guys have sound. I'm glad to see that. Good deal. But it's going to be really interesting to see this coaching carousel here over the next couple of weeks and what ends up happening, who goes, who stays. That's about the extent of it. Gene says that it was on his end. He should probably turn the sound up. Hey, for future reference, for any of you fans out there that are watching the show, anybody out there, there's this wonderful little thing, and it's a little round circle that I have here. It's called a sound dial, and you can turn that up. I'm giving you crap, Gene. You know that, buddy. You know I love you, my man. So if you guys have not gone over to GatewayCitySports.com and checked it out, make sure you go over there. I know that I beat that horse to death, but there's always new articles that are coming up. I always have new NFL stuff coming up. I'm going to be having, by the end of this week, a brand new NFL article coming up that's going to be detailing NFL expansion in the future. And you guys are definitely going to want to read that article. That's going to be another really fun article that I've worked a lot on. If you guys have not gone over to the In the Zone network on Podomatic, make sure you check them out. It's Podomatic.com. You go over there. It's linked on my articles. It's over on the Gateway City Sports page. It's underneath the podcast page too as well. It's on the articles, like I said before. And give that a listen. It's an interview I did with Palmer Alexander III and his producer, Arlington Lane, and we had a lot of fun. About a 25-minute interview. We talked a lot about NFL stuff. We talked about Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, my latest article that I have written here over the last couple of weeks. You guys definitely need to check that out if you have not done so. But make sure you go over to Facebook, and we have 2 pages for Gateway City Sports. We have the private group, which is our discussion group. That's what we talk about, everything in sports for any specific reason. Then we have the main page. Make sure you follow both, because on the main page, we're going to be sharing Gateway City Sports oriented subjects, articles, so on and so forth. But on the discussion page, that's where a lot of the really cool, fun stuff happens. Byron, I see you there, buddy. I see you there, my man. Good to see you. Been a while, but good to see you, my man. But yeah, go over there and make sure you add both pages. Make sure you go over to In the Zone Network and add their pages too as well. Make sure you go over to XFL STL. You add them. They have super fun shows. We've got new shows coming up on Gateway City Sports. We're going to be having some announcements. We're going to be having some things. It's going to be coming up, so you guys need to make sure that you're following up. So that way you can stay in tune to all the new things that are dropping. We're going to continue to keep working on some things. We want to keep working on the format for you guys. We want to continue to keep making sure that you guys are getting the absolute creme de la creme of the best from us. Because if you're not getting the best audio, you're not getting the best video, you're not getting the best content, then, that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that you guys have the best possible experience. And don't be shy. If there's something you want to talk about, get in there and talk about it. Ask about it. Because we ain't going to talk about it if we don't know that you guys want to listen. We're going to talk about the Cardinals. We're going to talk, baseball Cardinals. We're going to talk about the NFL. We're going to talk about baseball in general. We're going to talk about, all the upcoming MLS stuff here over the next few months. We're going to be talking about the Blues and all of that stuff. I might end up doing some rearranging back in here. What do you guys think? You guys want to do some rearranging back in here? Let me know. I've got other stuff. I've got other things that I could hang up back there potentially, or just move it around. We'll just have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. But it's been a great show. We're going to come back next Wednesday, and we're going to do this once a week from here on out. And I want to make sure that you guys know that from here on out, that's the way we're going to start doing things, because I think it's going to be the best format for you guys to be able to assimilate the information once a week. We're going to try to stick to that 30-minute timeline, which is where we're at right now. So that's where I'm going to cut you loose. This is Derek King from the Derek King Sports Show on Gateway City In the Zone Network. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate you. Love you. See you soon.